It's time for the Baseball Talk Radio Show. It's award season and a terrible tragedy where Roy Halladay crashes his plane and dies, all on this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Baseball Talk Radio Show. We're talking all about some big news in baseball. Of course, probably the worst story of the week, especially if you're a Phillies fan, baseball fan in general. Of course, we lost Roy Halladay a couple days ago in a plane crash down in the Gulf of Mexico. Very terrible, tragic circumstances there. And just this afternoon, they had a heartfelt gathering down in Florida, down in Clearwater, for Roy Halladay. A lot of the Phillies organization people were there. Charlie Manuel, Chase Utley, among others, all saying their respects to the family. And Gary, it's just a very sad day. It's a very shocking announcement when I heard that.
Yeah, it's a very sad all across baseball, Rich. Roy Halladay, 40 years old, still a very young man, had the rest of his life ahead of him, and but he loved to fly, and his wife was against it and all, but he got this some kind of new plane, and apparently they've had some other trouble with it. The inventor of the plane, the designer, was also killed in it in a plane crash, and they ruled it pilot error. And I'm sure that will be the determination in Halladay's case. There is a video of him going up and down and doing some wild stuff with the flying the plane. So I guess they're going to find out as they investigate. But that's all aside right now. Just a sad day in the world of baseball when the news came out, and I was kind of shocked because you just never expect you're going to hear about somebody of that caliber at this young age, and just retired 2 years, and now he's gone. He leaves behind a wife and a couple of kids, so just a real shame.
Yeah, it's a terrible tragedy. Believe it or not, a couple days before this happened, I was on my Twitter feed for fightingphillies.com, and a tweet popped up from someone who was actually riding around with Roy Halladay in his plane, and evidently it was some sort of relation to him. And I remember retweeting that comment from somebody, and I don't have his name handy from my Twitter account, but it was very eerie and scary to me that just 2 days later, Halladay dies in a plane crash. And as you said, Gary, there is video out there that sort of leads the impression that maybe Halladay was not operating the aircraft as it should have been. I don't know. I don't know if how long that video. I only saw about a minute's worth, and it sort of showed the airplane coming straight down into the Gulf of Mexico. There was no long video of that, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if you could actually pin that on Halladay not operating the aircraft correctly just from that video. There was I don't know. Did you see the video?
I saw some of it where he's diving down and skimming along the water and then going back up, and then you kind of lose it a little bit. It's kind of far away, but you can hear the guy said, the guy taking the video kept saying, "Oh my goodness," or "Oh my goodness," something to that effect. And it's just look, we've had Thurman Munson died in a plane crash. I think the oddity in it is he couldn't wait to retire so he could fly because it was in his contract that he was not allowed to get a pilot's license. And ironically, he retires and gets it, and this is what does him in anyway.
Yeah, and the A5, for those that aren't familiar with it, it's made by a company called Icon, and it's not your typical airplane. It does not have wheels that you can land on. It's a hybrid type of aircraft where, well, I take that back. I think it can deploy wheels if you're landing in a regular airport, or you could land in water on it, an amphibious type of plane. So apparently, Halladay was using the amphibious portion of this plane. And as you said, Gary, a couple of months ago, probably 6 months ago, I think it was back in May, I believe, when two executives of that company crashed. And the executives are not typically the people that you would think would operate a plane in an unsafe manner. So I'm not quite sure you could actually just blame Roy Halladay for this mishap.
Yeah, but if they don't find anything wrong, with the plane operation, then they'll just say it's pilot error. That's usually the way it seems to go with these things. But no matter, it's still a shame, and our thoughts and prayers go out to his family.
Absolutely, yeah. They Charlie Manuel was on the Philadelphia area sports channel this afternoon, and he spoke very highly of Halladay. He didn't meet him until 2009, um, when Halladay joined the Phillies. He had never met him up to that point, but he said he was very impressed with his work ethic that he showed on the field, and he was always the first one to the ballpark. Um, and he was very impressed with the way he dealt with his teammates, he said. So, touching words there from Charlie Manuel, um, and the rest of his players from the Phillies days. Chase Utley had some nice words to say about Halladay as well. And he's going to be missed, even though once he left baseball, he surfaced in the Phillies spring training camps. In fact, he was going to be there this coming season in 2018. And Charlie Manuel had also said that Halladay was recruited by the Phillies to actually try to get him to show up at spring training in 2018, which of course he said he would do for Halladay. Apparently Charlie Manuel wasn't too eager to go back to the Phillies if the Phillies organization had asked him. But since Halladay was trying to get him back, he said he would have been glad to join him there in camp.
Well, you can't blame Charlie Manuel for not wanting to go back, but yeah, it's just like we said, it's just a shame, and what can you say?
Yep. So the world mourns, the baseball world mourns the loss of Roy Halladay, and we had another death in baseball today as well.
Yes, this is though sort of on the other end of the spectrum, if you will. Boston Red Sox announced Tuesday that the passing of Hall of Famer Bobby Doerr. Doerr is regarded as the greatest second baseman in Boston Red Sox history. He died at his home in Junction City, Oregon, at the age of 99. So quite a bit of difference there. He is a member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and he's the only member to live to be 99 years old, and was the oldest living member. And now that I believe that goes to Red Shandies, who is like 94. he'll become the oldest living member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. But Bobby Doerr was a great second baseman, the Red Sox in the 40s. And I happen to have here, Rich, that if you're watching the video, an autographed photo from Bobby Doerr. And got on it whole HOF 86. I've got two of them. There's an action photo. This other one is, whoops, upside down. Uh,
Very nice.
a young Bobby Doerr, and he he was a great ambassador for the game and for the Red Sox, and he passed away today at the age of 99. So had a good long life.
Yes, indeed. Our heartfelt condolences again go out to the family. I guess when you're 99, Gary, your family is you might not have many family left at 99.
That's true. Yeah, that possibility exists, and so it's just too bad he couldn't have made another year, made that the century mark. That's always a cool thing, you know. But 99, and he was pretty active. I think I don't know how the last couple of years, but um, as of a few years ago, he was still pretty active. Showing up at Fenway Park and doing signings and that sort of thing. So again, I don't know how the last year or two how he's been, but I know at one point he was still pretty active and in his 90s. So it's just a good run.
Yes, indeed. And, getting back to Halladay, I did watch some of the eulogy that they had down in Clearwater for Mr. Halladay, number 34 with the Phillies. He wore number 32 with the Blue Jays, but Roy Halladay's wife, Brandy, gave a heartbreaking, brave, and even funny um, speech, says Mike Oz from Twitter this afternoon. So, um, and he's a writer for Yahoo Sports, by the way, MLB writer. But yeah, just a terrible, terrible time for baseball fans in general, and even Blue Jay fans. You know, it hit home for us around the Philadelphia area. I know Halladay was probably my favorite Philly, along with Cole Hamels. I really liked his work ethic, and you know the Phillies always had a fighting chance when he was on the mound. You could almost pencil him in for a win most of the time.
Yeah, he was a dominating pitcher, and of course had that big no hitter in the National League DS, the division series there. I think it was game one of the division series. You would probably remember more than I. Um, but just a really good pitcher.
Yeah, and I was actually present at the last game, the last home game that he pitched for the Phillies. I got some nice pictures of him on the mound for that game back in 2013, I believe it was in September. And I remember like it was yesterday. I couldn't believe 4 years had clicked by since that last game that he pitched in Philadelphia. And he will be missed. He had a long life of him to lead after baseball. A lot of these baseball players we don't hear from after they retire, except for the real great ones or somebody that goes into broadcasting or something like that. They sort of slip away into relative obscurity again after they leave the game. But Halladay, I believe, had a great career lying ahead of him that was cut short. I could easily see him turning into a manager or something like that for baseball. And it's going to be another hard thing for his wife to go through. when they induct him in the Hall of Fame, because I believe she's going to probably have to give the Hall of Fame speech for him.
Do you think they're gonna induct him, and do you think they're gonna waive the 5 year rule, even though uh, I don't know what the deal is yet with that.
Well, I think he's an instant admission to the Hall of Fame. I don't know that they would waive the 5 year rule. Obviously, right now, um, I would have to say maybe they would, but we'll have to see what the baseball writers do with that, because I guess it's all up to them with and with the Hall of Fame. So we'll have to keep an eye on that for you, the listener out there. And if you have any Roy Halladay stories, we'd love to hear from them. So write them into us. You know the email address usually if you're a long time listener. If not, um, you can check our website out, mlbthisweek.com. Check it out. Find our email address there. And Gary, I hope to hear from some of the listeners on this. I know some other people probably that listen to our show here probably have their own Roy Halladay type of memories that they'd like to share.
I'm sure there are some out there, Rich, and you mentioned the baseball writers voting, and it is that season again of award season, and the Baseball Writers Association of America had their named their manager of the year tonight.
Yeah, and manager of the year was, I'll give you a drum roll.
The National League was Torey Lovullo of the Arizona D-backs, and in the American League, it was Paul Molitor of the Minnesota Twins. And to be honest with you, I'm not surprised with either one. I kind of figured that they would be there. It could have been the National League. The three finalists was Dave Roberts, Bud Black, and Torey Lovullo. And I thought Dave Roberts had won it last year. I didn't think they would have him repeat, and his team was a good team. So it was really between Torey and Bud Black. And the D-backs just had more wins, so I think that's could be one reason why they went in that direction. But congratulations to him. And Paul Molitor had a team last year, lost 103 games. And if you remember, Rich, when the season started, he was on everybody's top 5 list of managers to get fired. And somehow he put that team together and had them winning, and they won 85 games, made the wild card, lost the wild card game to the Yankees, but did make it to the playoffs. And Paul Molitor gets the Manager of the Year award as a consolation prize, I guess, for that. And Rich, I was looking at some of this stuff, and it's interesting. I was looking at it, I saw this little nugget about most Manager of the Year wins by franchises, and I wonder if you can guess which is number one.
I would have to guess the Yankees out of the clear blue sky.
Well, that would have been my guess, but no, it's not. It's the Chicago White Sox.
Well, totally out of the blue there.
Out of the blue, there's 5 managers. I don't know. I don't have all of them. I know Ozzie Guillen was one. I think Tony La Russa won. Oh, not Tony La Russa. Excuse me. Yeah, Tony La Russa. He was with the White Sox. I don't know who the others are, but yeah, the White Sox are number one with 5.
Ozzie Guillen, I'm looking at a list here, 2005.
Yeah, I think this is going to go back a bit in time, though. If you
Jerry Manuel, 2000, I'm looking at here on a list.
2.
Gene Lamont in 1993. The name doesn't ring a bell to me.
Lamont was a coach with Pittsburgh for a number of years, a Jim Leland guy, and went to the White Sox.
Then we go back to 83. I see Tony La Russa was the Chicago White Sox manager of the year. So yeah, wow, that's amazing. That's one of those stats that you don't really pick up on um, too much unless you're a fan maybe of the White Sox.
Hmm.
Then you would probably know that. But interestingly enough, Gary, these two managers of the years didn't really have teams that really made it well into the playoffs either. And sometimes that's a criteria for manager of the year as well.
Well, they were talking about that tonight, and with the baseball writers, they vote before the season's done. Now, in a few weeks is the Insurance Awards, and they have their manager of the year, but I think that includes the postseason. So the names could change at that point. We could see AJ Hinch get the American League Manager of the Year for the Insurance Awards, and the National League, I don't know who they would name, but um, yeah, it's interesting. And I think another interesting about the National League this year was that all three managers were from the National League West: Colorado, Arizona, and the Dodgers. So. No love for the rest of the divisions, I guess, this year from the Baseball Writers Association. And of course, last night, Rich, was the big Rookie of the Year announcement. And again, not really any big surprise there. Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger uh, won unanimously, and not very surprising at all that they won the Jackie Robinson Rookie of the Year award. They were unanimous, as I said, and they became the 22nd and 23rd winners of the rookie prize to be listed first on every ballot. So Aaron Judge of the Yankees gets the AL Rookie of the Year, and Cody Bellinger gets the NL Rookie of the Year.
Very cool. No surprises there. Aaron Judge basically came out of nowhere uh, and snagged that award. He practically owned baseball last season. So, congratulations to him and Cody Bellinger as well. Uh, Another great player there, rookie of the year. Both players, interestingly enough, Gary, played like they had been in the league for years. Don't you get that impression that
Yeah.
these, it seemed like they were 5-year plus players this year?
Well, and we certainly saw a lot of them with the Yankees making the playoffs and winning around, and of course the Dodgers going all the way to the World Series. So we saw a lot of Bellinger, a lot of Judge. Uh, Judge won the home run derby. We saw him there. So very interesting. And but again, really a surprise, a no brainer. I mean, who else could you pick but those guys? You'd have a war if somebody else won. I mean, as much as I dislike the Yankees, you got to give it a Judge. There was nobody even close to him, even though he had a little slump there at one point in time, but came back strong with the home runs and stuff and hit, what, 52 or something, some ridiculous number, and really had a great year.
Yes, he did. And getting back to the manager of the year, I'm reading an article on MLB.com. Richard Justice here. Um, he wrote a column that says, AL managers Hinch and Francona were very highly regarded as well. So I guess maybe you throw a dart in the dartboard and come up with the winner on that, because
Yeah, I guess so. Uh,
there's
I
three
just had
managers.
I just had a feeling that Francona won. I don't know. I think last year, didn't he? And and Francona and Hinch. I think everybody thought the team, they had good players, they were going to be there. And I think Malata was really the surprise team in all of that, because the Twins were really not. They were picked to win 65 games, and and here they won 85 and won a wild card spot. So I think that pretty much sewed it up for him.
Yeah, I remember us talking about the Twins throughout the season, surprised that they were hanging tough there
Mhm.
all year, and maybe they can build on that for 2018. We'll have to see. But and the GM meetings, well, we have a couple more awards to announce, but the GM meetings are going on right now as well, Gary.
Yes, they are, and not a lot gets done now, but they do have the GM meetings. They get together and they start laying the groundwork a lot of times for trades at the winter meetings and trades over the winter. And this is like when it all seems to start. So that's a big thing in the baseball world. It's the first big gathering of the baseball community, and again, starts with the general managers and moves on from there.
Yeah, a lot of big names being talked about. Mike Stanton, or formerly Mike Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, as he's called now, definitely, probably your top guy that everybody is looking at right now. They're saying the Cardinals and the Red Sox may be interested in Stanton, and I can almost see the Cardinals going for him. They signed Pujols to a long-term deal many years ago. He's probably a very close player to Pujols, so maybe they would like to have another home run slugger similar to him in St. Louis.
Well, and today we got two conflicting stories about that. There was a story out that said he does not want to go to St. Louis. And then another report came out that said that he's interested in all of the teams that are interested in him right now. So, we'll find out if and when it happens. And I got a feeling it's going to happen, though. I really do. I heard the Phillies are out of the running, that they're not really interested. They're happy with what they got, so they're not going to even try. And I think you know, he's a game changer, but I don't. Let's face it, I don't think he was going to go to Philly. I think if he wants to go to a winner, you know what I mean? I don't think he's going to go to Philadelphia. I don't think he's going to come anywhere in the division. I think he wants to go to the West Coast, and then there was a report that the Dodgers are interested. So, there's a lot of reports out there, Rich. You know how it goes with all the rumors and stuff. The Angels are interested. The Giants seem to be the front runner. Um, it's a big contract.
Yeah, and it's to build on what you were saying with Stanton not wanting to go to the Cardinals. Apparently, he's not going for the Red Sox either. So uh, apparently, he has his mind made up where he'd like to play, and he has the no trade clause in his contract. So um, what's staring ahead of the team that would take him is that he's signed through 2027. So you're looking at a 10-year deal, somewhere north of $300 million. So that's what any team that picks him up is looking at. Stanton is, let's see here, I've got his page up from Baseball Reference here. His nickname, didn't know this one, Bigfoot is his nickname.
Didn't know that.
But he's 28 years old. One could argue he's in the prime of his career here. And a 10-year contract. So whoever picks him up is going to have Stanton probably for 10 years unless they moved him after they picked him up. So,
Well, I think also he has an opt out in the contract at the age of 30, I think it is, but I can't swear to that, but I think he has an opt out. So that's something to consider too. If he goes to a team and they're not winning and he's not happy, he can opt out of that contract. So
Well, would the new team be held to that contract, or would they have to
Yeah.
renegotiate with him?
Oh, if it's a trade, they gotta take the contract. The contract, the contract is traded with the player. In essence, you're trading contracts. You're not really trading a player per se. You are, but you're trading contracts, and they would have to honor that contract. So he could opt out at, I think it's the age of 30. I can't swear to that, but I believe that's what I had heard.
So last year, Stanton with 59 home runs, 132 RBIs, had the best season of his career. The year prior, he had 119 games, only 27 home runs, and I say only, that's not too bad. 74 RBIs, and go back another year, 2015, 27 home runs, 67 RBIs. Lifetime batting average is 268. So you're obviously going with him for the home runs. He's got 267 home runs here, and he's been in the league for 8 years. Um, Put in 100 games in his first season as a 20-year-old, Gary, for the Marlins. And that's the only team he's ever played for all 8 years so far with the Marlins. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes in this off season.
And how many
And
games has he played in the last 2 years?
the last 2 years, let's see, 2017 is 159, and 2016 119.
Well, he's always had a problem with injuries, and this year he stayed relatively healthy, and that's why he had the big year. And perhaps he's got it over that injury bug. And if he stays healthy, I mean, he can do a lot of damage. 59 homers. I don't know how many RBI, but that's what teams are looking for now.
Yeah, and it's interesting that this is the first season. 2018 will be the first season of this big contract that he signed with the Marlins. Obviously, the Marlins changed ownership, and the new ownership did not care for this contract, evidently. That's an interesting scenario. Why wouldn't they want to keep one of their biggest draw players down in Miami?
I think they want to get their debt down. I think they want to get rid of all the big contracts as they can. And of course, he's the biggest. And I think they just want to build from scratch and not, have that contract around their necks as an albatross.
That'll be interesting to see where Stanton goes. And of course, a lot of other players in the mix for the hot stove, so to speak. And it looks like the Phillies are trying to add a pitcher. I know I read a few articles where they're out of the running for Stanton, but they need pitching, obviously. What have you heard from the Mets?
Well, the Mets are looking for pitching. They're looking for bullpen. They're interested perhaps in Carlos Santana for first base. They're not sold on the rookie kid that came up last year. As the is Sandy Alderson said, the general manager, he didn't do much to win the job last year. So they're still looking for infield help, and they need another bat in that lineup somewhere. And Carlos Santana would be a good get. He's a switch hitter. I think he hit 36 homers this year, roughly in that 34, 36. Be a good get for them if they want to spend the money. I don't know how much he's going to ask for. They need somebody to play third. I mean, they picked up the option on Asdrubal Cabrera, but he doesn't like playing third that much. Will he play third? You know, I mean, he's got a nice contract. I don't see why you wouldn't. But David Wright says he's going to come back. But I'd like to see him sign somebody, perhaps, to play third. And the outfield situation, they're going to need another bat. So the room is they might try to go after Jay Bruce and re-sign him and play him in first and in the outfield, and they have some maneuverability there. Hope he has a big year and then trade him again in July, I guess. But we'll see. It's you know how it is, Rich. You get lots of rumors and lots of crazy stuff going around, and um, you believe it when it happens.
That's right. And a lot of starting pitchers on the market. Looks like here, Madison Bumgarner, it says a $12 million club option, which I'm sure they're going to take that. Carlos Carrasco, a $9 million club option. I'm sure they're going to do that with him. Gio Gonzalez, he's a nice pitcher that I would think somebody would be happy to get. Maybe even the Phillies would consider him. A few others in the mix as well, but interesting to see where some of these players land in the hot stove. And I remember, was it last year? A lot of the hot stove action took place late, as I remember.
Yeah, it not too much happened. I think there was some at the winter meeting, not as much as we thought, and there was a flurry a little bit after that. But I think it was 2 years ago that there was a lot of action at the winter meetings, if you recall, or it might have been 3 years ago now. But they're coming up December 10th. I've got the list here for what's coming up. Tomorrow will be the Cy Young Awards will be announced. And then on Thursday will be the MVP announced, both on MLB Network. And then on Friday is the Esurance MLB Awards, which are a little bit different. And then the winter meetings are December 10th to the 14th. So that's what we're really aiming for. And that's, hopefully we'll see some action. Stuff could break between now and then. Guys are going to sign and whatnot. But that's usually where a lot of the other action takes place.
Yes, indeed. Well, we have a few more awards to announce for this show. Of course, if you're following baseball, you probably already heard it. But we want to thank the listeners that tuned in to our show on YouTube here on the Baseball Talk Radio Show. We had a lot more than usual, I would say. So if you like the audio portion of the show, and I know we have a lot of listeners that only listen to our audio, pop on over to our YouTube page. We'd appreciate you if you could hit subscribe for us, become a subscriber to the show. Love to have you watch the show as well.
Yeah, that certainly would be great. So go check it out on YouTube and subscribe.
Of course, yeah. You can listen to us on baseballtalkradio.com. You can also tune in to our website, mlbthisweek.com. So plenty of places to check us out. And Gary, you had some Cy Young winners awarded already.
Well, the Cy Young is actually tomorrow night, Rich, but we do have the Gold Glove winners.
Oh, okay. I'm jumping the gun.
There you go. Maybe you're in time travel.
I swore I was reading something that had the winner, but
no, not yet, Rich. But the Gold Glove winners were given out the other day. That was like the first award given out, I believe, and some interesting choices and different names on the list. For at least for certain positions. And let's start with catchers in the American League. It went to Martin Maldonado of the California Angels, or the Los Angeles Angels, whatever they call themselves this week. And in the National League, a real shocker, Tucker Barnhart of the Cincinnati Reds wins his first Gold Glove, and no Yadier Molina this year. So congratulations to Tucker Barnhart of the Reds. At first base in the American League, the Gold Glove went to Eric Hosmer of the Royals, and the National League, Paul Goldschmidt of the Diamondbacks. The second base, another first-timer, Brian Dozier of the Minnesota Twins gets the Gold Glove at second. And then the National League, DJ LeMahieu of the Rockies, he wins his second. A shortstop in the American League, Andrelton Simmons of the Los Angeles Angels, he gets his third, and Brandon Crawford of the Giants also gets his third. So two repeaters there. Third base, Evan Longoria of the Tampa Bay Rays, he gets his third glove, and Nolan Arenado of the Rockies gets the National League Gold Glove at third base. That's his fifth, according to this. And I didn't even know didn't think he was in the league 5 years, but I guess he was, because they got five there for him. Left field in the American League, the Gold Glove went to Alex Gordon of the Royals, and the National League went to Marcell Ozuna of the Marlins. That was his first. Center field, the American League, Byron Buxton of the Twins, his first. And in the National League, it went to Endar Inciarte of the Braves. It was his second. The right field Gold Glove went to AL. In the American League, went to Mookie Betts of the Red Sox, his second, and Jason Hayward of the Cubs, his fifth in the National League. The pitchers, Gold Glove Award winners are Marcus Stroman of the Toronto Blue Jays, his first, and in the National League, Zach Greinke of the Diamondbacks, his fourth. And Rich, it's conspicuous that there were no Phils or Mets on that list. So I don't know if that says anything about our teams, but
Yeah, I would think, yeah, they would be a little noticeably absent from that list. Maybe next year for them, but interestingly enough, we'll both have new managers on our teams, our favorite teams, rather. Of course, Gary does his Mets Musings podcast. You can check that out at metsmusings.com or baseballtalkradio.com. Listen to that all throughout the season. If you like the Phillies and you're a Phillies fan, you could check out my Phillies podcast over at fightingphillies.com. That's the blog address, and check it out. So we'd appreciate you stopping by listening.
yeah, and anytime, just stop and check it out. There's all kinds of shows. And Rich, we got one more award if we have the time to do. It's the Silver Slugger winners. And I'll just go through them real quick. First base, National League. This is all National League. Paul Goldschmidt, Diamondback. Second base, Daniel Murphy of the Nationals. Shortstop, Corey Seager of the Dodgers. Third base, Nolan Arenado of the Rockies. Catcher, Buster Posey of the Giants. Outfielder, Charlie Blackmon of the Rockies. Outfielder, Giancarlo Stanton of the Marlins. And Marcell Ozuna of the Marlins. And Adam Wainwright got the Silver Slugger Award for the pitcher in the National League. In the American League, it was first base was Eric Hosmer of the Royals. Second base was Jose Altuve of the Astros. Shortstop, Francisco Lindor of the Indians. Jose Ramirez of the Indians was the third base winners of the Silver Slugger Award. Gary Sanchez is the catching Silver Slugger winner from the Yankees. Justin Upton of the Angels got a Silver Slugger Award, as did Aaron Judge of the Yankees and George Springer of the Astros. Big year for Springer, also winning the MVP of the World Series. And the designated hitter was Nelson Cruz of the Mariners. And Rich, there's one name that's, again, conspicuous by its absence. And that, of course, is one of your favorite players.
And
Mike Trout.
Oh yeah. He didn't get any love from the baseball world, of course. Probably because he was injured this year. The numbers just weren't up to the caliber, I guess, of those awards. And while you mention that, let's bring them up online here and take a look at why we probably didn't hear from Mike Trout. And by the way, I was in his hometown of Millville just a couple days ago, and I was actually thinking of him because I don't know if I told you this on this show, Gary, but my cousin actually ran into Mike Trout a few years ago before he really made it big. I think it was maybe his first season, his first off season at a local Chili's where I live. So I remember my cousin telling me this goes back probably 5 or 6 years after Trout was drafted by the Angels and he had made it to the big leagues, but of course he wasn't an overnight success with them. In the off season, he was just in town here eating at Chili's, and my cousin actually walked up to him and shook his hand and said, "Hello."
All right, great story.
So let's check out his numbers. Though he's 25 um, years old. He'll be 26 in, let's see, actually right now he's 26 years old. He was born August 7th, 1991. He, for last year was his, what they call his 25-year-old season in the bigs. He hit 33 home runs and 72 RBIs. So that used to be, what would you consider that, a great season for somebody, pretty much, Gary. But apparently not quite enough. He had a .442 on base percentage and a OPS of 1.071, though. So that number is the highest of his career. Of course, he was an all-star, and he's been an all-star in 6 of his 7 years in the bigs. MVP twice, and twice he was voted number 2 in the MVP. So I still think he's the best player in baseball. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, just look at those the numbers. I mean, they're pretty outstanding. I mean, it's hard, and the number of games played: 139, 157, 157, 159, 159, and even this year with the being injured, 114 games. Just incredible, and yeah, I think if he's not the best, he's certainly in the top few of the best players in baseball.
Yeah, and compared with similar batters, I'm on baseball-reference.com again. One of my favorite places to go on the internet for baseball stats. Um, through the age of 25, he's compared with, let's see, 10 players, and 8 out of the 10 are Hall of Famers: Frank Robinson, Ken Griffey, Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron. Miguel Cabrera is not a Hall of Famer, but Mel Ott, Eddie Matthews, and Orlando Cepeda as well. So not bad company there so far.
Yeah, and don't forget Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols will probably be going to the Hall of Fame someday. So you could almost say it looks like he's 10 out of 10.
Yep. So Trout has nothing to be ashamed of there. And of course, looking forward to seeing him in the 2018 season. And Gary, I don't know. Do you think he'll end up leaving the Angels at some point? And where do you think he might land?
Wow. I'm just looking here to see when his contract is up.
I'm on the page now, and he's going through 2020 with the Angels.
And he'll be making $34 million in 2020. Wow. I don't know. He'll be what yeah, 27, 20. He'll be like 28, 29 years old then. My math isn't best.
Yeah, it says that will be his age year 28 of his baseball career. So 3 years from now,
He'll just be in prime.
yeah, he's sitting on the doorstep of another great contract. Obviously, the Angels extended him through 2020, and I don't think you'll see any other team pick him up before that, even though he's making a nice buck, but I hope he doesn't end up like San Diego Padres slugger ended up, where he doesn't make the postseason all that much. Because a player like him, I think, would be exciting to see in the postseason.
Well, certainly would, but you know, they got to put players around him, and he needs the help. And they've got some guys that are getting old on that team, like Pujols, and so we'll see what they did. They made a surge there at the end of the year, if you remember last year, and for a while we're in the wild card hunt, and then fell out of it. But we'll see what they can do next year, what they do over the winter to help boost that lineup and boost that pitching staff out there.
Yes, indeed. And of course, I was thinking of Tony Gwynn. Um, was a great baseball player in San Diego for many years. Silver Slugger award winner, year after year, Gold Glove winner, and he just did not have a chance to shine in the postseason. So hopefully, we'll see Trout make it to the postseason, if not with the Angels, with someone else. Um, how about Phillies? How about the Phillies?
I thought you wanted Stanton, Rich.
Well, I figure Trout would be a natural fit for the Phillies because he'd be so close to home. So you figure 82 games, which is half the baseball season, he would be able to be home. And he in the off season, it seems like he prefers to be home in the South Jersey area. So if that's any indication of where he lies, possibly the Phillies or maybe even the Orioles might have a chance to sign him.
Or maybe the Mets.
Or he could go to New York. I don't know if he would want the big city life, but would be interesting, of course.
He's only a helicopter ride home.
Well, that could be as well. So we'll have to keep track of that. If we hear anything, of course, you guys will be the first to know, the listeners of this great podcast, the Baseball Talk Radio Show. And Gary, it was another great show, and hope our listeners stay with us through the off season.
Yeah, stay with us. We'll be doing this, bringing all the news that we can discover as we go throughout the season. So just stick with us.
And I know we've been promising some guests. We will have guests on through this off season. I can guarantee it. So hang in there, and we appreciate your subscription to the show. You can stop by our Patreon page. I know I've tried a few times to get our listeners to support the show, and go to our website at mlbthisweek.com. You can link right to the Patreon page and use it with confidence, because a lot of the times I hear a lot of people that aren't comfortable with putting their credit card if they want to give us a donation of $2-3 a month or something like that. I know a lot of our fellow podcasts do quite well, so we invite you to go over to the Patreon website, totally secure, and we'd love to have your sponsorship as well.
Yeah, go check it out. It's fast and easy, and we really would love to have you join the team.
Well, we'll talk to everyone next show. Gary, you have a great week, and it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the GM meetings here. And as we travel on through the month of November into Thanksgiving holiday, and then, of course, Christmas and Hanukkah, and, of course, the big 2018 ball drop. And we've got so much for our listeners. I hope they enjoy the upcoming shows on our broadcasts.
Wow, is it that time already? 2018. Holy cow, not that far away, Rich.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next show.